Hi, my name is Scott Pugh, Principal of Jennason LLC. In today's video, we're going to take a look at a bit of an alternative use for the Jennason Serialization Test Tool. Recently, I've received a number of inquiries and questions from pharma companies, manufacturers, asking whether the serialization test tool could potentially be used to actually generate EPCIS data for purposes other than testing. In fact, to generate EPCIS as needed to comply with a particular government regulation. Before we dive into that, just to give a brief history and background about the test tool itself. So the test tool has been in use across the pharmaceutical industry for about 7 years now. Its purpose primarily is to act as a testing tool, which allows you to simulate different business scenarios. So packaging of batches, aggregation, shipping, receiving, etc. allows you to build essentially simulation of these scenarios. And what the tool does is then generate the corresponding EPCIS test data for those scenarios. And so it's often been used in the past and currently used by customers as part of their ongoing either implementation or support services. So if they're implementing a new serialization system, if they're expanding their serialization capabilities, maybe to add aggregation or to start integration with more downstream customers, companies will use this test tool as part of those types of ongoing activities. But this most recent set of inquiries, again, coming from customers asking whether the test tool could actually be used to generate EPCIS data to help them in support of their requirements for a particular country, and that's the country of Bahrain. Now, Bahrain has a unique set of reporting requirements, actually in a positive way, because they in fact are basing their reporting requirements on the EPCIS standard. It's one of the first, if not the first country to do this, and actually I think a very positive step for a country to do this. And so because the necessity is to provide EPCIS events to the Bahrain Traceability Hub, of course, companies are looking for all of the possible options for how they might in the best, most cost-efficient way possible to generate these EPCIS events so that they are then available to upload and import to the Bahrain Traceability Hub. And so again, that's what's led a number of companies to reach out to Jennason and ask if the test tool, understanding that it has that capability to generate EPCIS data, could actually be used for this purpose. And so I felt it would be valuable to make this short video today showing exactly how the test tool could be used to actually generate the necessary EPCIS events and messages needed for Bahrain. So as I go through a quick demonstration here of how we will use the test tool for that purpose, I'll make sure to highlight some of the key benefits and advantages that the test tool has over some of the other EPCIS generation options that are out there currently. So let's just use an example. Let's say that we want to generate a set of commissioning and shipping events for Bahrain. To kind of give the background, the test tool can be used to generate any EPCIS events. So we can use it to generate commissioning events, aggregation events, shipping events, etc. Certainly when looking to use something like the test tool, which would be more of a manual process of generating these events, the recommendation, of course, would be if it's possible, and of course if it's supported and agreed upon for a particular manufacturer, to take advantage of the current ability, at least, to submit just the commissioning and shipping events to Bahrain. As I said, the tool can generate aggregation events as well. So what I'll show in the demonstration can also be expanded to include the generation of aggregation. But certainly in a manual process, of course, the goal will be to try and minimize the steps whenever possible. And so in that mindset, that's where the recommendation would be, if possible, to use the tool to create the commissioning and shipping events that need to be uploaded to the Traceability Hub. So that's what I'll show here briefly during this demonstration. The benefit really of the test tool overall in using it as a EPCIS generation tool is that it allows you to leverage what are called event templates. And really the key advantage that provides users of the tool is that's going to basically pre-populate the majority of fields that you would be needing to fill values in each and every time you create a new set of commissioning and shipping events, let's say for a new batch that's going to be produced and shipped into Bahrain. And so those event templates are going to greatly reduce the time that it takes to create these events each and every time that you need to do that. One of the other benefits is Jennason has actually already created event templates specific to the Bahrain EPCIS requirements. And so those are provided to any customers who might be purchasing the tool specifically for the use to generate the Bahrain EPCIS. Jennason will provide those customers with those templates for really no additional cost. And so that's what you'll see me use for this demonstration today. So let's just start the process. So let's first start with the process of creating the commissioning event that we would need to for a particular batch that's been produced and shipped into Bahrain. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the event template. Again, this will be provided to you by Jennason. And this is the event template that tells the tool exactly how to create an EPCIS commissioning event per the Bahrain specifications. So I'm going to choose my Bahrain commissioning template here. Click OK. What that's going to do is it's going to show us a series of sections, and each of these sections has different fields that may need to be filled out, although you can see by the check marks on the right hand side, many of the sections are already fully populated by the fact that I simply chose the correct event template. But I'm going to still click through these different sections so you get a sense of the types of fields that you can save as part of the template versus some of the other fields that we'll be entering, obviously, each time we're creating a new set of commissioning and shipping events for Bahrain. So the first section to look at very quickly in detail is the header section. This is a required part per the Bahrain specification. Again, the benefit here is we can pre-populate almost all, if not all, of the fields that would need to be populated each time you're creating a new set of EPCIS messages for Bahrain. So we can, even pre-populate things like the proper sender receiver values. But if you need to change those, let's say on a batch by batch basis, one of the other advantages of the test tool is that we can pre-configure the various locations that might be relevant to your operations, in and around Bahrain, so that those values are available to you to simply choose from a drop-down, right? So you're not having to worry about copying and pasting values into these messages each time and obviously run the risk of making mistakes or errors. In this case, you're always choosing just from a drop-down list, and then the tool will actually take care of making sure things are formatted correctly and populated correctly within the EPCIS. So again, really, ideally, nothing that needs to be populated or filled out within the header section. If we move next to the event info section, again, most, if not all, of the fields can be pre-populated. Certainly things like action, biz step, disposition that are specific to commissioning events, those are going to be pre-populated in the template. Even read point and business location, we can pre-configure and pre-populate per the template to be representative of the MAH, right? So because per Bahrain, their preference is to make sure that it's the MAH location details that are populated within these events. We can make sure that those are even pre-populated per the templates. Even things like event time, you have the option to just simply have the tool use the current date and time when it's creating these commissioning events, or if you want to make sure you're using a very specific date and time, let's say that's representative of when the batch was packaged, you always have that options to pick and choose, a specific date and time, as well as time zone offset that should be populated. Next, an object event. The key thing to fill out here, really two parts. First is that we're going to populate the quantity of items that will be included in this commissioning event. So let's say, just for demo purposes, that this commissioning event we're going to create is going to have 10 items that we include in it. And then in the UID source dropdown, we're going to choose the manual entry option, because of course we want to make sure that we're populating these EPCIS messages with the actual SG-TINs that were actually printed and applied and serialized as part of a particular batch packaging. So I'm going to choose the manual entry option, and we'll see how this works here on the next screen, where I'll actually enter the serial numbers that should be populated in this commissioning event. The next sections, business transactions, we don't have anything there for commissioning events. Same with source and destination, nothing there for commissioning events. And then the last section, extensions, of course, a very important section, as we have the key extension fields, which again are required per the Bahrain spec. First is event ID. Again, one of the benefits of using the Jennason tool is that the tool can just auto-populate a valid event ID value for you, so that you don't have to worry about creating a new unique value each time you're creating a new event. And then of course the lot and expiry extension fields. And so here is where you would enter the lot number that corresponds to the lot that was just packaged, as well as the expiry date that corresponds to that particular batch that was packaged. And so those values, again, the tool will populate whatever values are entered here into the EPCIS commissioning event. So that kind of gets through all of the fields that I need to enter for my commissioning event. I click on next. Here I see that box where it's asking me to enter my serial numbers. So what I'd be doing here is I would be taking my list of serial numbers, presumably that I'm pulling from a CSV, XML, or some other, maybe off a screen in my serialization system, and I'll populate those serial numbers, or as you see here, UIDs or unique identifiers, into this box. Whatever I populate into this box is what will then get populated into the commissioning event. So I click on continue. I have some just very last things I need to pick. We want an EPCIS 1.2 message to be generated. We want all the events to be included in one message. Of course, it's just a single commissioning event in this case. We want the event order to be in chronological order. That's important because that's one of the requirements from the Bahrain specification. And so then finally I click on finish. So what that's done now is it's taken me to my next screen, and it's displaying to me the commissioning event that was just created based off the template I picked and all of the other details that I enter. So here's my serial numbers that I pasted in that would have come from my packaging data. Here's my event ID that's automatically populated. All of my commissioning fields are correctly populated, including read point biz location. And then down here is where I have my lot number and expiry date that I entered on that previous screen. So this is obviously the first key event that we need to create for Bahrain. What I'm going to do at this point is actually just save this message. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to save this message to my computer so that we don't lose it. Let's just call this Bahrain 1. And then I'm going to essentially repeat that process again, but now doing it for my shipping event. So really similar process. I'm going to first choose my event template, but this time I'm going to choose my shipping event template. Same kind of screen appears, and now I'll just walk through the key sections again. Don't need to change anything here. Don't need to change anything in the header section. That's all pre-populated from the template. If I look in the event info section, again, all of these fields can be pre-populated for you, so nothing that I need to enter or change here. Again, in my object event, in this case, we're going to ship those 10 items out the door. I'm going to again choose manual entry because I'm going to copy and paste that same list of items to make sure that those are the same 10 items represented in the shipping event. Then when I get to business transactions, so if there is a business transaction and there can be one or more that should be populated, I can choose my business transaction type. And again, this can be pre-populated per the template. And then I also have this nice little wizard that allows me to enter the specific values. In this case, if I want to enter a properly formatted, what's called GLN-based business transaction identifier, I can choose my proper party and then enter my PO number in this case, click on generate, and then that automatically creates the properly formatted BizTrans identifier, which will go into my EPCIS. So that, again, just a helpful way to make sure you're creating those values correctly at reducing the risk from just copy paste or potentially making a mistake with the format. In the next section, another key section for shipping events is source and destination. So again, here in my source, which would be the shipped from and sold from, I can pre-populate the appropriate values that represent the MAH, who's obviously responsible for these shipments. And then on the destination side is where I would enter key information such as, the ship from, or I'm sorry, the ship to and the sold to. So let's just say, and these are all sample values, I have a ship to location and a sold to entity that I'm selling the product to. So because I can pre-populate and configure those locations in my master data, I don't have to make sure I'm entering the right format and values and copy paste, and I'm reducing errors there because I'm just simply choosing the value of, in this case, my sold to and shipped to from a drop-down list. So I've chosen those destination values. Again, the last section here is a event ID as an extension. No need to do anything because the tool will just auto-populate that value. So again, we're saving time because we're not making you enter really the majority of fields to create these messages. So same thing, I'll click on next. I'll paste in my 10 UIDs again. That's going to make sure those get populated in the shipping event. Click on continue. I want a 1.2 message again. I'll say all in one, click on finish. And now here's my shipping event that gets created. Again, we have our items that we pasted in from our actual shipment. We have any BizTrans that need to be populated. We have our correct source destination. We have our correct event ID being properly formatted there. So really, as a very last step in the process, what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply go back. I'm going to open my commissioning message or event that we created in the previous step. I'm going to come to my shipping event. I'm just going to pull out the shipping event itself, this object event. I'll come back to my commissioning event I have here, paste it in, and just like that, sorry if that was a little bit off screen, 1 second. What's happened now is just by taking those steps, I now have my fully formatted message ready to go to be imported for the country of Bahrain. So I have my commissioning step, all of the correct extension fields, correct event IDs, correct locations, and then I have my shipping step with my BizTrans identifiers, as well as my source destination, again, properly formatted event IDs. All of that wrapped into a single EPCIS message that I can now save, do whatever is needed to now take that message and upload it into the Bahrain Traceability Hub. Hopefully this demonstration was helpful. Certainly feel free to reach out to Jennason with any questions you might have. Thank you.